Hello, this is Johnny and welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be potting up some of these Japanese maple seedlings behind me, and I'm going to talk about when I pot them up, aftercare, and just general advice with growing Japanese maples from seed. So stick around. So if you've been following my progress, these particular Japanese maple trees that you see here growing in these flats, I put seeds and soil in these flats this past fall and let nature naturally stratify them. And for a lot of them, like the green maples here, this is an Acer palmatum, just a standard green variety. These ones, which I believe come from a bloodgood variety. And then even my Mokawa Yatsubusa seedlings, those are coming up really well. I'm having pretty good germination with those. Some of the other ones I'm having not as good germination, and that's always going to be the case. You never know the germination rate, and some of these still may sprout. You know, it's not even May yet, so we're still a little bit early. But nonetheless, when it comes to starting Japanese maples from seed, the easy way is to go ahead and pick those seeds from the tree in the fall when they're fully ripe. Then you just put them in a tray with some soil, put them out for the winter, and let them sprout. You can do a stratification, a artificial stratification in the refrigerator, but that's unnecessary if you live in an area that gets decently cold winters. So that's what I did here. Now, when it comes to when you want to pot them up, I personally wait till at least we have our true leaves. So when a Japanese maple seed sprouts, you get the cotyledons. Those come out. Then you'll notice, like for example, that one right there on the tip, you see the true leaves coming out. Then when they fully open, here is, for example, a true leaf. So once they have their true leaves, I'm able to go ahead and start transplanting those out into pots. I'm going to start out today by taking one of these trays here, and these are from a Japanese maple tree that was growing in my park, a good, strong, tall, green variety, and I'm going to grow these out mostly for rootstock. And so I'm going to pot these up in various different pots to show you some different options. Okay, let's talk about potting soil. So in the past, I've mostly used G&B Organics potting soil, and I've had really good luck with that. Now that I'm doing this at a much larger scale, I thought it was a good idea that I tried some bulk soil. So I ordered in a load of bulk soil, and this is a mix of compost, pumice, aged forest bark, and they said other premium ingredients. There is a possibility that I'm going to need to add a little bit of something to it, whether that be some peat, more perlite. But one of the main reasons I went with this is because it's nearly 1/3 the cost of the G&B Organics potting soil. So you're able to buy a load like this by the yard. And I ordered in 6 yards of this soil. And I did the math. As compared to the 2 cubic foot bags that I was purchasing, this is nearly 1/3 the cost. And once again, I really love this soil scoop that I got on Amazon. I will put a link to that down below in the video description with an Amazon affiliate link. And if you want a scoop like this and you purchase it using my link, Amazon will give me a commission at no extra cost to you, which does help support this channel. But it's a big time saver, not only for getting the soil, but also when it comes to putting them in the pots. But yeah, I'm really happy to have this bulk soil. I don't have to lug around a lot of bags. I have a lot of soil all at one time. And once again, it's quite a bit cheaper than doing it in bags. Okay, so here is the flat of Japanese maples that I'm going to be planting out. I want to talk about containers. So in the past, I've used mostly these. These are 3.5 inches by, I don't know, 3.5 to 4 inches tall. Just a standard light duty, very flexible pot. And in a standard 10-20 nursery tray, you can fit 18 of these. So I've done a lot of this in the past, and that's worked totally fine. But now, since I have limited space and I'm trying to grow out a larger scale, I'm going to be experimenting with different other trays. For example, these are called band pots. And at the bottom of them, they have big, huge holes, just kind of that cross member on the bottom to hold the soil in a little bit. And then they fit decently well. Like, this isn't the perfect tray for them. There's a little bit of a gap there at the end, so I don't think this is the perfect tray for them. But in this particular tray, even with that gap, I'm able to fit 42 of these. And if I'm guessing here, I didn't measure them, but that's probably roughly 2 inches across, and I would probably say around 5 inches tall. So that's one way to get a lot more in a smaller space. Now this tray is not a 1020 tray. It is a little bit different size there. It's an Anderson flat. It's actually the same kind of flat that I sprouted these in. It's like a heavy duty Anderson flat, and I really like these. I'll probably be buying more of those in the future. But another thing that I wanted to try this year, and this is something that I'm excited to try. So these are actually really, really deep. So it's kind of like a plug tray, but it's actually made for trees. So this particular tray allows me to put 50 in a single 10-20 tray instead of 18, but they still have plenty of depth to grow out for, I would say, at least 2 years in this, and then you can transplant them into a different kind of pot. But maybe you might even get 3 years out of this, but probably at least 2 years in this pot here. I'd also plan to experiment with transplanting some of these seedlings out into 2 kinds of plug trays, a 72 count plug tray and a 98 count plug tray. But I found the process of getting each individual seedling into each one of the cells, filling it with soil, etc., a little bit fiddly and difficult. So after potting some of them up in one of the 72 count cell trays, I changed my mind and decided not to go with those trays and to stick with the other kinds of containers. Okay, I'm going to start with the typical 3.5 inch flexible pots here, and I'm going to pot up 18 of these. Let me first put soil in this flat, and then we can start putting these down in there. Okay, now that I got this flat full of soil, I'm going to just go ahead and put a hole here in the center of each one. I'm just using a pencil here. A screwdriver or anything like that would work just fine, but I'm just going to put a hole here in the center where I can drop the roots down and kind of tuck that in. Now we come to our tray here, and I'm just going to stick my finger in and just lightly lift up a section here. And so you can see that I've just lifted up a section here of these. And then each one of these I'm just going to separate out. Hopefully you can see that, but we have some roots forming there, and I'm just going to take these and just kind of stick them down in that soil like that, not planting them too deep, about how they were before, and just kind of tuck those in like that. So it's pretty simple, doesn't take that long. And especially it's easier. Before I was digging these out of like flower bed areas, and it's a lot more difficult because I had to dig each one of these out. These are just in a very soft soil that I planted them in, and this is a lot easier, faster transplanting process. In the past, I've had pretty good luck transplanting Japanese maple trees when they're this size. You will have some losses, and not all of them are always going to make it, but I'll talk about aftercare when I get some of these potted up. But in general, they seem to do pretty well at this stage, potting them up. And as long as you keep them kind of in a shaded area, keep them watered, you should be okay. Okay, so I got these all potted up. I'm going to set this aside and just lightly water this, and then move on to a different kind of pot. Okay, here are these, I believe roughly 2 inch by 2 inch by roughly 5 inch band pots. And I have 42 of these right here. And I'm going to go ahead and fill these up and plant these as well. So if you don't enjoy the potting up process, then maybe the nursery business is not for you. But I actually do enjoy the process of potting these up. And it's very rewarding to see them grow out. And it's going to be a lot of fun to look back on this and know that these seeds were started in fall of 2023. Maybe around summer of 2026 or so. These will be ready. Maybe 2025. We'll see. Maybe next year. Maybe these will surprise me. These will grow quite a bit faster than I'm used to. But generally, 2 to 3 year old seedlings are what you use to graft onto. And so a couple years from now, we should be able to use these as rootstock. But it'll be fun to know that I grew out the rootstock from seed, and then I grafted the trees myself, and it'd be fun to watch those grow out and sell those to customers and know that more beautiful Japanese maple trees are out in the world. Now I do recommend that you pot these up when it's not very hot outside. So right now it's morning time, and this is a good time to keep these from getting dried out as you're potting them up. Obviously you want to water them in pretty immediately, and then I would keep them in a pretty shady area. Obviously Japanese maple trees in general like shady areas, but especially a newly planted seedling, you want to make sure you keep that in a pretty shaded area and keep it moist. Not too moist, but good and watered until the roots can kind of settle in a little bit. Okay, so there's that tray of 42 done. I'm going to go ahead and water that in and then move into one of the other trays. One concern I might have with this soil is the drainage. It doesn't drain as fast as some of the soils I've used in the past, so it'll be curious to see how that works. Japanese maples, it's best if you have a well-draining soil, and I'm not sure this is going to drain good enough, but we'll see. I would like to be able to use my bulk soil, not have to mix it in with other things, but I might have to do some mixing. So with all that potting that I did, I really just took a little small section of this tray. So there's still quite a bit more to do, but I want to go ahead and talk about aftercare, what you do after you pot them up to make sure you can grow them out into healthy seedlings. Okay, so here they are, and some of these are a little bit leany, like this one, and I'm going to try to keep that from touching soil, so you can kind of push the soil around the stem there and kind of help that. But I'm curious to see how this soil does. It seems like it retains moisture a little more than I'm used to with some of my potting soils. I can definitely recommend G&B Organics potting soil to you. That's done really well in the past for me, but this is an experiment with this soil. Here are the band pots. Once again, some of these are kind of leany, but with experience, once they kind of get settled in, they'll usually straighten out pretty good. So that seems to work well with these band pots. I'm very happy with the experience of planting out in this deep tray as well. I guess they call this Sure Roots, and it has 50 cells in it. And then once again, I decided not to continue on planting in the plug trays. I tried with this one here, and it was too difficult. Really, the roots weren't going to have enough room to stick them down in properly, and it was nearly impossible to kind of get them all in placed and then put the soil in there. It just wasn't working very well. These are great for starting seeds, but I don't think it's great for transplanting into it personally. And then of course, same story, I didn't want to mess with this 98 count cell tray. I'll use that for something else in the future. Okay, so I brought them over to my shade house, and I brought it to the back side, which gets more shade than the rest of the house. It's important at this stage that I keep them from a lot of heat and direct sunlight. Of course, I already have a 50% shade cloth over this structure, and then this section is under some trees. But I want to make sure that I keep them watered, so these have been watered in. And for this particular one, I watered it before I planted them in. And you can see here that it's pretty shady, and this is going to be important right now. I don't want to stress these out while they're trying to develop that root system. There's no need to fertilize these trees until after at least 1 year of growth, and they shouldn't need to be potted up for at least 2+ years. Traditionally, Japanese maple trees grow pretty slowly, and I will put a link down below in the video description where I actually did a video showing how long it takes to grow a Japanese maple out from a seedling to a full tree. But in general, for a good mature landscape tree, that's going to take 10 years or so. After 5 years or so, you could probably put it out and it'll be a decently sized tree, maybe 2 feet tall, 3 feet tall at that point. But it takes a while to get Japanese maple trees to grow out, but it's worth it if you have the patience. Well, thank you so much for following along with me. If you're not yet subscribed, make sure that you subscribe, because I have a lot of exciting content coming up this year as I propagate more and more Japanese maple trees and other plants. So until next time, thanks for watching.